Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Caitlin's already here. She was reading an arc of June 1st and telling me how amazing it was. So,
Yeah.
Caitlin,
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Glad you're here.
So happy to be here.
Super excited. Is this relation to you?
Looks good. Yes, my husband. Hi.
Okay. So, like, unless it's a really weird coincidence that someone has your same last name. Hello, everybody. We got more people coming.
Hi, Samantha. Yay. Hello.
Hi, husband. I heard that, I know I'm just like jumping right into this, but I heard that you guys did this cover.
That is us. That's our arms.
That is so cool.
Yeah. We literally just did it in my living room, which is like super tiny. And my toddler at the time was just like pulling on our pant legs the whole time, wanting chicken nuggets. And we're just like, we have to get this shot. And we did it so many times. And it was so hard because we had the camera just like set up on, a tripod. So we would like time it, and then our arms were chained together. So we'd run back to the spot where we were supposed to be and then like wait for it to go off. And we did that like 50 times. I'm like, there's no way we're going to get it, but we got a shot. So
that is worth it. I don't remember where I saw it, but I was like, no way. Did you guys do this yourselves? That is really cool.
So you have this tattoo?
No, that's actually Photoshop. So we put the tattoo on there, but I do want to actually get a tattoo of that. That's on my bucket list for this year.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Sabrina.
I'm really so excited. Yeah. Do you then do your own covers?
We do. Yeah, my husband has done all of my covers. So some of them are like stock photos. So we do want to change some of them around. But we try to make as many unique as possible. So June 1st is 50% original. We took that picture in Seattle. And then Still Beating's original, The Wrong Part's original. So yeah, it's pretty cool because we were photographers before I started getting into writing. So we kind of had that, element we could bring into it. So it's cool.
That is so cool. Covers are like one of my favorite things about the book. I'm obsessed with them. So that's so impressive. You do your own covers.
Thanks. Wow. Yeah, my husband does it. So he's awesome. He's good at that stuff.
That's awesome. And he's like so supportive. Yeah.
Hi, Caitlin. How are you?
This is so funny. Okay. Normally we've already like jumped into everything, but if you guys don't know, this is Jennifer Hartmann. Welcome her to my channel. We are super, super excited. I read Still Beating in January, and it was automatically like, this is going to be a favorite of the year. I'm absolutely.
Thank you.
I just finished The Wrong Heart this week, and I was just telling Tori before we got on the heart-wrenching epilogue that you wrote, and it was just. But we normally share. I know it's a really hard question for authors, but what is your favorite book that you've written? And we will share our favorite that we read, and feel free in the comments to let us know your favorite book by Jennifer.
Yeah. So my favorite, it is definitely tough because there's elements that I love of all of them, and then there's things that bug me in all of them. But I would have to say my favorite is The Wrong Heart. Just because of the emotional connection that I had while I was writing it. I don't know. I just dove right in emotionally. I felt like how you would probably picture like a method actor is how I felt while I was writing it. So it took a toll on me emotionally, and I had a really hard time getting over it. And the epilogue was probably the hardest thing I've ever written. So yeah, that's probably my favorite. It's just, I don't know. They're all my babies, but that one it just took a toll on me. So
I remember the author's note said it took you 2 days to write just that short little epilogue.
Yeah, it did. And it's funny because I've written like 4,000 to 5,000 words in, a few hours. And it took me like 2 days to get through the like 900 words that I wrote. But I was 100% like all in for the epilogue. I thought of it like halfway through the book. I was on a bike ride and it just came to me, and it just felt like so perfect, like so full circle for the story. Even though I knew it was risky and it was going to be hard to write. But I felt so just that was the perfect ending for that book. So, but it was definitely tough.
Tori, your favorite?
So, I did read Still Beating because of Jess. She talked about it, and she's like, "This is one of my favorite books. I like everyone needs to read it." So I do have like a special place because this is my first book by you.
Right.
So of course it's a good one, but The Wrong Heart, actually, I was a little bit more emotional in that book than I was that connection with the characters, that if you've been through similar things, you can connect with that. And I held my stuff together until the epilogue, and I was reading while I was working, and my husband was like, "What are you doing?" Because I was sitting there like fanning my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Not to cry, because I've never read an epilogue kind of like that.
Right.
It is so full circle, and while it is heartbreaking, it is really unique, and it was just like such a perfect ending to their story, and it fits.
Thank you.
So those two are like they're pretty tied for the top.
Thank you. Yeah, Still Beating and The Wrong Heart were probably the two that I just like emotionally, connected with the most. But yeah, I don't know, The Wrong Heart, it did something to me. I was just like, I was broken in like such a good way though. Like it just, like I always say, after I write a book, it almost feels like a breakup. Like you need that time to grieve and like get over those characters before I can dive into a new book. And that one by far took me the longest time to like regroup and be able to get into a new story.
I just have to say I'm super excited to continue June 1st because I'm in the middle of that right now, and so many people are like, this is amazing. This is my new favorite.
Yay.
So,
Thank you.
Very sad and emotional. So I'm
that
scared
was
to continue.
My third. That's if I had to go down like in my top 3, June 1st is my third book that I would choose as like.
Thank you. Yeah, I have this thing with angst. I don't know. I have no idea what's wrong with me, but I love pain apparently. But I like putting you back together at the end. So
is it hard though to write such like, just thinking about like the beginning of Still Beating, such like dark, emotionally draining books? Is that hard for you to do, or you just like thrive on the hurt?
It's funny because people say, are like, oh, what was the hardest part, of writing those books and stuff like that, those like kind of dark, angsty books. And it's funny because those are the parts that are really easy for me to write. Like I get very excited to get in, like dig deep into the emotionally complex stories and the darker elements, that those usually flow so well. My struggle is usually in like the in-between and the, I guess I have to tie up this loose end, and, just kind of like the fluff in the middle. So that's the part that I struggle with more. But generally, yeah, those like emotional scenes I like cannot wait for those. Like I get so excited to write them.
That must be why they're so good.
Oh, thanks.
So many emotions. And I was reading, when I finished The Wrong Heart, I saw you mentioned oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name now. The serial killer from Still Beating.
Yes. The matchmaker.
Yeah. And I was like, oh wait, that's Still Beating.
Right.
And so I know you like have little like hints. Someone did ask, are we going to see Dean and Cora in any of your other books?
Yes, I do have plans to write. If anybody's read Lotus, well, if you've read Still Beating, Tabitha. So she was the other survivor. And she comes in Lotus, and there's another character in Lotus that I have a story for them that I want to write. His name's Gabe. I should say I don't have the story. That's what's holding me back, is I have like these two characters that I love, and they have a really rich backstory and a lot of potential, but I don't have that like underlying plot to make it, a book, I guess you could say. And I've already put both of these characters like through so much trauma. It's like, how much do I want to throw at them? But I want it to be interesting to read. So I'm just trying to figure out the perfect story, but I do plan on writing that. And then I would definitely bring in a lot of Dean and Cora because they have a connection to Tabitha. So someday.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. So do all of your books take place like in the same world?
Almost. Yeah, almost all of them. My first 3 did not. Aria and Coda took place in New York, and Claws and Feathers took place in like super northern Wisconsin. So I'm on the I'm like 15 minutes from the Wisconsin border. So it wasn't in my, element, but let me think. I think that's it. I think everything else has taken place in either northern Illinois or like southern Wisconsin. Oh no, Entropy took place in Seattle. So, but I was there, so I was able to like kind of take notes and stuff. So
okay. That's
Will you ever write Clementine's story?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I did. That's actually probably one of my main questions that I get is if I'm ever going to write a story for her. And I had no intention of writing one for her when I wrote Lotus, but everybody seemed to really connect with her and thought she had a really interesting, history and potential for a story. So I actually created a character in June 1st. And I gave them a little scene for kind of a setup for a future romance. So yeah, I'm working on that.
Okay,
sure.
I noticed that when I read Lotus and then I read June 1st, and I thought,
yeah,
is there like setting up for something maybe?
I am, yeah. So hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to plan books for me because I'm really just one of those writers that it'll come to me and I'll just start writing. Like June 1st, I hadn't even planned on writing that one next. I had another book I was like 15,000 words into, and I just stopped and I started June 1st because it just hit me. Like I had to start writing it. So it is hard for me to plan out books like that, but I really, really want to dive into that story. So I'm hoping it's on the short list.
So when you start a book, then do you just like go and write, or do you have to plan, outline, stuff like that?
So I'm what they call a pantser, which is kind of like fly by the seat of your pants writer. I do need to have like a little bit of the main story arc, kind of foreseeing where I'm going. Like I need to have a couple plot points set out, so I'm not just totally like, running wild, but I generally just kind of write as I go. And half the time when I do plan stuff, it always changes anyway. So I kind of just let the muse do what it wants. And I'll usually have little bullet points for chapters. Like I'll do a chapter 1 through 40 and just do like a sentence for each one just to kind of keep me on track so I don't forget things, important things. But yeah, kind of just flow. So
you just make writing sound so easy, and I'm just like so it's like it just happens, and it just
happens. But sometimes it doesn't happen. So it's sometimes, I'll like try to force a story and it's just not happening and it's frustrating. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of, wherever it takes me. So yeah.
Okay. Do you get your inspiration from anywhere though? Like with the darkness that you write, like the serial killer romance and the wrong heart?
I mean, I did when I wrote Still Beating, I really did want to write kind of like a Criminal Minds. I love like investigation discovery and, like murder mysteries and stuff like that. So I did want to write something with that element. But yeah, it's usually when I write a story, I usually start with the relationship dynamic that I want to explore. Like, oh, I'm really feeling enemies to lovers, or I'm really feeling friends to lovers. And I'll kind of weave a story, like I'll have an idea of a plot and I'll just kind of weave it around the dynamic that I want. Because for me, that's the most interesting thing to write is the character dynamics and the relationships. So even though I do like to have interesting plot, I like, especially like June 1st, I feel like it was super character driven. Mm-hmm. Like when you think about the plot, it's not any crazy mystery or thriller going on. It's more just like two people coming together and trying to make it work. So that's kind of where I start. And then, I'll have little plots here and there that I want to throw in, but yeah, I try to make it more about the characters.
I don't know. I have not heard this. They said, is it true Still Beating was a completely different story originally?
Sort of. It wasn't a different story, but it was much less of a story. So when I thought of Still Beating, I really only envisioned that whole like first 30% of the book where they're, captive. And I had every intention of just keeping it as like this erotic thriller novella. And that was it. And I was going to put it under a pen name, and that was it. No one was going to know I wrote it. My dad was never going to read it. But I sent it to a couple like beta readers. I was like, oh, what do you think? Am I crazy for writing this? And they're like, you need to finish it. Like, you need to make it a book. You need to put your name on it. Like, this has so much potential to be a good story. So as I started writing it, I just got so invested in the characters, and I wanted desperately to see what happened to them after they got out. So yeah, it just kind of blossomed into what it was. And I actually had no intention of even writing Dean's point of view in that book. It was literally just going to be Cora. So that's why it starts with the whole first part is just Cora, because that's all I had planned to write. And then I was like, well, I kind of want to know what Dean has to say. So yeah, that's how the whole 3 parts with the different point of views came into play.
That's really interesting, because I always say with Still Beating, for me in particular, when I like talk about it, people think it's like so emotional for that 30% of the book, and it is. It's very, very emotional what they go through. But I find it interesting the healing journey that they go through together after. To me, that's more emotional.
Right.
And I like that even with like The Wrong Heart, you take such a sensitive subject and you write this healing story around it, because usually with like the topic of what happens in the wrong heart, people talk about like going like not the what comes after. I've never really said that. So I found that like super interesting, specifically about your writing, that you take those seems like little things, but they're not. They're huge things. It's like emotional. It's a really long journey.
Right.
Not happily ever after. So
thank you. Yeah, I love just the idea of putting completely normal people into these like terrible, complex, horrifying situations and just see how they make their way out of it, you know? So yeah, that's really fun to explore. I really like the kind of the aftermath and the healing journey of, you know, trauma. So yeah, a lot of my stories have featured trauma and like kidnapping and stuff like that. But I don't know. I have a lot of, it's just interesting. It's fascinating to just, you know, kind of uncover how people deal with, you know, situations in different ways. So yeah.
For your inspiration, when we're on the topic of inspiration, for Lotus in particular, what was like that? Where did you find your inspiration for kind of like the setup for that? Because I don't think I've ever read anything.
Yeah, so Lotus was funny because my inspiration for that book was completely just that I wanted to write Oliver's character. I wanted to write a grown adult male that is almost kind of like innocent, sheltered, childlike, that you know, was kind of away from the world for a period of time for whatever reason. And I had no plot. I was like, well, how can I create a character like this with society and everything? Like, how can someone actually be sheltered from the world for so long? So I literally just created a plot based around the character that I wanted Oliver to be, because I was just I could not get him out of my head. Like, I wanted to write him. So all the details just fell into place from there. I'm like, well, what could have happened? And, you know, so yeah, so that was interesting because I did not come up with the plot for that one first. I just came up with Oliver.
Oh, wow.
And everything kind of worked itself out from there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Oliver shows up in another book.
Yeah, Oliver he actually has dialogue in my co-write The Thorns Remain with Shelley St. Clair. So Oliver and Sydney show up, and Oliver has 2 different scenes. So that was fun because he's the neighbor of the main character in The Thorns Remain. So
I think it makes it so much fun as the reader to just like, oh, I know that person and that.
Yeah, somebody told me I need to make like a map or a chart to, you know, connect all the books together. Because I mean, they are standalones, but they have these little like Easter eggs where you can be like, oh, I know that person. So.
Yeah.
Are they meant to be read in a specific order, or can you just like read whatever you want?
Yeah, not necessarily. I try to make it so if there is a character appearance, you don't need to know anything about them to understand the story you're reading. Because I know for me as a reader, that's always so hard, is when I see like, you know, books like, oh, book 1, book 2, I'm like, do I need to read in order, or are they just kind of like the same world? So yeah, I just try to make them standalones. But it's just fun to go back and read the others to know what they're all about.
Samantha asked a question about, since you like true crime, would you ever write a romantic suspense? I do feel like Still Beating was a little bit like romantic suspense in the beginning, since they were kidnapped. You're like, how are they going to get out of this?
Right. Yeah. Romantic suspense. I feel like Claws and Feathers is probably the closest I've gotten to like that actual genre. But I mean, I do love that element. My next book, I do plan to go more in that direction, but it is going to be more, I'd say, dark romance. But it is probably going to be my closest book to Still Beating, and there is going to be a kidnapping trope in it again. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm going to try to like spin it differently, because I have this idea in my head and I'm just trying to wrap like the story around it. So, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a romantic suspense. It's going to have like forced proximity, trauma bonds, strangers to lovers. I don't know. There's like a million tropes in it, but I'm kind of working through that one right now, but it's definitely going to be like more Still Beating level, like with the darkness. So
is it about any characters we've met before, or
no? These are going to be completely new characters. I don't have it completely figured out yet, so I don't want to say too much because it might change. But basically, I just had this idea in mind where I wanted to have a wall. Like 2 characters are on the opposite ends of a wall, a guy and a girl. And they're both there for a reason they don't know about. And basically they're just bonding kind of through the wall. Like they're talking to each other and they don't see each other until, obviously later. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of explore that, like 2 people bonding in this traumatic situation, but they don't even like know what each other looks like. And so it should be fun then when they finally meet, yeah, we'll see.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, thanks.
But that's like a while away because you just had your release. So
yeah, so I'm still kind of recovering. I'm finishing up Coda, remastering that into first person. I'm almost done. I'm like 85% done. And then I'm kind of brainstorming along the way with the new one, making notes and everything. And I'll probably start diving in like probably by next month. I'm hoping to have it out by September. So we'll see. We'll see if I can do it.
That does sound a little bit like Love is Blind. I don't know if you ever watched that on
No, I have. Oh, the reality show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. I actually got the idea from this horror movie I saw with my husband, but it was 2 girls. There were 2 girls that the wall was between them. I'm like, oh, how do I make this a romance? So that's interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
I think there's less stakes though in Love is Blind.
Right. True. Yeah.
I had something. Oh, so you mentioned like rewriting your older books, and before we came on here, you talked about how you loved historical romance growing up, which made me and Tori super excited because we love historical romance too. Do you remember any of your favorite historical romances that you read before you started writing?
Gosh, so it's really funny because there was this book that has stayed with me my whole life, and I cannot remember the title of it, and I posted in so many groups. But yeah, it's really hard because I haven't read it since I was a teenager, so I don't remember like a ton of the authors' names. There is one, her name starts with a J. Do you know it? Any like popular ones that start with a J? I'm trying to think.
Joanna Lindsay is the most popular.
That's it. That's her.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm like, she's one of the main ones. Yes, Joanna Lindsay. I've read a couple of hers. She's amazing. So she was definitely my favorite. And I've actually read a couple like more recently of hers too. Now that I, reading more romance, but yeah, I just kind of started gravitating towards the contemporary side, and it's so hard to world build with historical. So, this is more in my wheelhouse, but I really appreciate it.
What made you decide to write then?
So it's actually really embarrassing, but I was obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was younger, and I got into like the fan fiction world.
Oh my gosh. So
I would write like Buffy and Spike fan fiction, and it's humiliating, but I just got like the itch to start writing and doing that. That's probably explains a lot of like the type of stories I read. I love the slow burn because I was obsessed with like Buffy and Spike. If anybody has read it or watched it. Thanks, Mike. But yeah, I love the slow burn, kind of the enemies to lovers. But yeah, I started writing that when I was probably like late teens, early 20s. And my first book, Aria, I had actually started writing it as like a Buffy and Spike fan fiction. And then I just, I changed it into my own original one. But I started writing that like years ago until I picked it back up in like 2019. And yeah, that kind of started my actual writing journey.
You've only been writing for 3 years?
Yeah, officially. Yeah. I mean, I used to write like poetry and fan fiction and stuff like that. But yeah, I only started like publishing in my first book, Aria, went live April of 2020. So not that long.
No.
I know.
So good. So
thank you. Thank you.
That's surprising. Riley asked if the movie you were talking about is named Fresh.
Yes, that is it.
Of course Riley would know that.
Yeah,
that's too funny. Hi, Riley. That is totally it. I watched that and I was like, okay, how can I spin this into a romance plot? So it's a totally different plot that I came up with, but I loved the idea of like a guy and a girl kind of bonding through the wall. So that's too funny.
There are so many authors though that start from fan fiction. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm always embarrassing and I'm like showing my age, but it's fine.
Most people start off of Twilight fan fiction, though.
Right, so I know.
Cool it's for you. Okay. Oh, someone did ask, would you ever write a historical? I know you just said it's going to be a ton of world building, but are you interested in that at all?
No, I don't think I ever will. I don't think I could do it justice with, just with the world building involved and the research I'd have to do. I've learned that I thrive better when I stick with things that I am more familiar with. So yeah, probably not. I mean, never say never, but I don't really see it happening, unfortunately. Leave it to the experts.
True. Caitlin said she can feel the angst already.
The angst through the wall. I am so excited. You have no idea. I'm so pumped for this one.
That's so funny. Do you have a book that you feel like is underrated and you wish more people would read? That you wrote?
Yeah, I would say The Thorns Remain. I think that one is underrated. That's with my co-author, Shelley St. Clair. That's probably it's one of my favorite books that I've written. I had so much fun writing it. And I just really loved, it's probably the most anti-hero that I've written. Because I generally it's hard for me to write dark romance because I feel like that usually makes one of the main characters a bad, they usually have the darker elements. And that's so hard for me to do is because I just I want to be able to redeem my characters. But The Thorns Remain does have the main character. It's told totally from his perspective. And he is kind of a little more of an anti-hero. He's very morally gray. So, but it was so fun kind of going from kind of doing a 180 in the slow progression that he goes through and the story behind it. So yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a book that I feel like was underrated, that I feel like people should give a chance, maybe I would say that one.
That's next on my list. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I hope you like it. Yeah. A lot of people I feel like had, struggle with the character because it's not a dark romance. So I feel like when you go into something labeled as a dark romance, you expect that. So I think you're a little more forgiving. So when you go into just a plain contemporary and see this character who kind of has these questionable intentions, it's harder. So I think if you go into it with that mindset, you might like it a little bit more. But I really resonated with that story, and I hope you do.
Caitlin is just your hype
woman.
Oh,
thank you.
It makes me want to read all the books I haven't yet.
Oh, I loved Evan. Yeah, I love writing Evan. He's one of my faves. So yeah.
Oh, and he's a single dad?
Single dad. Yep.
Oh. Okay. I do like that trope.
One of my favorite tropes too. So it was fun to write.
And I know you are going to Love in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Which
so excited.
I'm sad. We're both going to Book Bonanza and a Polycon this year, but we aren't making it to Vegas.
Yeah, I wanted so bad to go there, but I didn't hear back. So hopefully next year at a future one. Yeah.
Because is this you're published in 2020. So have you been to any book signings?
I did my first one in April. So I went to, I was at the North Iowa Book Bash. So that was my very first signing. Cause I kind of started right when everything was going crazy. So yeah, it's going to be a fun year. I have another one, in Charleston next month. And then I am doing Romance in Galena, in September, and then Love in Vegas in October.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited. Yeah.
Do you have any plan for next year yet or no?
Yeah, I'm actually doing Rare Australia. So that'll be fun. Never been there. I'm very excited. And what else am I doing? I think it's a new convention or a new signing called Book Bishes on the Beach. It's in Florida. So I just signed up for that one. That's in the summertime. So I'm excited about that. But so far, that's it.
Go to Florida in the summer? I mean,
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna look that one up. See what that's about.
Yeah, I think it's book BISH on the beach. So
okay. We'll have to, I wonder if is it close to Orlando? Do you know where it is?
I'm not sure. I have to double check. I just signed on to that one. So I heard Florida and I'm like, I'm there. So
one of our friends lives in Florida and she's always like, there's no signings that are really around here of indie authors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you say the Charleston one is called?
Oh yeah. Charleston. It's called Lit in the Low Country. It's Charleston, South Carolina, June, I think it's 9th to the 13th is when I'm going to be there because we're driving, but, I think it's that weekend, a second weekend in June. So yeah,
we're just happy that signings are back up again. Cause
I know, me too. I'm so happy. So pumped.
Someone also asked me about special editions. I know that's all the rage with authors right now and people love special editions of your books. Do you have plans?
We do actually. It's funny that it's brought up right now because we just started kind of working on that. So my husband's working on a couple alternate covers. So we're gonna do probably like a hardback version. For sure, Still Beating and Lotus. That's kind of what we're working on right now. So we'll see. Yeah, I kind of want to add like a little like bonus scene into Still Beating that I have in my head. I was debating if I wanted to save it for like a future book that I was going to write, but I think it would be fun to add it to like the hardback edition because you get the new cover, you get a little bonus, and so we'll see. But yeah, I'm loving that the different covers and stuff like that because it's just so fun. You have other ideas that come to you after you do your cover, and it's fun to put those out there too. So.
I forget. I don't remember what live show it was. Tori, was it one with you? That I was like, I love it when they add like something else to the special edition. So it's not like okay, like the same exact 2 books and different covers, but no, you're getting like a little,
right. Give you a little something else,
Okay. Well, I'll definitely buy Still Beating when it comes out.
Yay! Thank you.
I did buy the audio of Still Beating for when I want to reread it. I have not listened to it yet, but. We had a question about the June 1st audio and what is the process like for you? Do you get to cast the narrators? Do you have input?
Yeah, so it's actually completely different for me this time around. So June 1st is 100% coming to audio. I just don't know when yet because I did secure an agent in between my last book and this book. So it's all in my agent's hand right now. So she is in the process of finding narrators for me. But before this book, then yeah, I would just kind of audition narrators on Audible and find my picks from there. Or like my last, I used Neil Thorne. He did The Wrong Heart, Parker, and then he did The Thorns Remain. So amazing. So this is a little bit of a different experience now. So I don't have any dates or how long it takes going this route, but it 100% will be on audio eventually, hopefully this year.
How do you like audition narrators? How does that
so
work?
What you do is you just put like a little scene up, like a 1-page scene, and you want to try to have like the male and the female so you can get a sense of their voice for both, parts. And they record it for you and they send it, and you can see how much they vibe with the character voice you have in your head. So it's kind of fun.
I had no idea that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because we listen to audiobooks all the time. So. Yeah. Someone wants Zachary Weber to be your narrator.
Oh, I love him. I love Zachary Weber. Yeah, that would be awesome. I know some of the really big narrators get booked up so far in advance. So that's why I'm not sure like when exactly it's gonna release because I don't even have any names yet. But I'm hoping, he's been on my list for a long time as someone that I'd love. So fingers crossed.
Would you ever do, I know it's a lot for authors, but dual release where you do audio and paperback ebook at the same time?
Possibly. I think my issue is that I never know when I'm actually going to finish a book. So I wait on my putting up my pre-order date until I'm like 100% sure I can commit to the date. Because I'd say the hardest was The Wrong Heart. I set my date and it was like through the summer when the kids were home and we had all these plans, and I just got so emotionally invested in the book. It was just so hard to balance life and working then. And it was so stressful. So I told myself I'm not going to do like a crazy deadline, I have to get this out by this date. So then it's harder to plan the audio around it because they usually need a couple months in advance. But we'll see if I can arrange it in the future. I might.
I'm always shocked when authors can do them releasing at the same time because that takes a lot of organization and planning.
It's a lot of planning, and I'm just such a writer where I just I don't know 100%. My timeline. I'm not a good planner when it comes to that. Where some authors can be like, all right, so July 13th of next year, I'm going to have this book out about this, and I can't do that. I wish I could, but it's harder for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you only have, I haven't listened to any of your audiobooks yet, so do you not have dual narration for your books?
I do. Thorns Remain is the only one that has just the male narrator because it's just told from the male point of view, aside from the epilogue is the female. But all of them are dual point of view. Except Claws and Feathers is just female read it because it was third person, so I just hired the one. But The Wrong Heart and Lotus and Still Beating are dual, and then June 1st will be dual as well.
If Still Beating became a movie, which would be a very intense but very good movie.
Oh my God.
Who would you want to play Cora and Dean?
Gosh, so the Dean that I always had in mind was Brant Doherty. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. I think he was on like, I don't know, maybe like Gossip Girl or something back in the day. I never watched it, but I found him like on Instagram, and I don't know why, but he just like, he was Dean for me. And then Cora, I do you guys have you seen In the Dark at all? The show In the Dark with the blind chick. I think her name's like Perry Metfield. I love her. I can picture her, but I'm a little more open with the female. But yeah, I totally pictured Brant Doherty as Dean.
You would make a very good Dean.
Yes.
Yeah, I love him. I don't know why. I saw it.
I can see it.
Everybody's Googling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I gotta know what he looks like. Yes.
Right?
Yes. You said this. Yes, you are, right?
Yes.
Are you working on the
Aria? Yes, I'm almost done. So Aria's done. I'm just, my proofreader has that, and Coda's like 85% of the way done. So I should have that done probably by like next week. And then I plan to release those in June. I think like around June 21st, 22nd is my goal. So yeah, so those will be remastered into first person, have new covers, and be put into Kindle Unlimited. So yay.
Okay. I don't know what this is asking. So as in the guy reads all the guy. Yeah. Oh, so like even when the girl is reading, the guy will say his dialogue. I don't think I've read too many like that.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about now. It's pretty rare to find narrators who will do that. It usually has to be like a husband and wife team. And I've actually had a husband and wife team. They did Still Beating, and they said it's very difficult to do that, and they don't usually recommend it. And sometimes for the listeners, it can actually even be a little bit jarring. So, but I mean, that would be awesome, because I mean, it is sometimes, strange to hear the man do the girl's voice and vice versa, but it doesn't seem to be super common from what I've heard, but you never know. Maybe I could find two people that would do that, because it'd be cool to hear.
I think the only one, because I've listened to this series, the first two. Tori, you did too, right? These on audio?
Yes. Sorry, yes.
And then I think, yeah. And then I think the Tate James series, I think those are some of the very few ones that I've heard like actually do that. And that would probably take a lot more, because it's a lot more intermixing.
It is a lot more intermixing. Yeah. And just, I feel like the two narrators have to be kind of just like acting, in that part to like give the right inflection and everything, because they're bouncing back and forth. So, so my narrator said it was hard to do and not very common, but, yeah, I have to listen to that. That sounds interesting. I'd be curious to hear how it sounds.
It was like for Tate James, hers was a little jarring at first. I was like, whoa, we have, because
it is a little
reverse harem. So there's three guys. So the guy like changes a little bit for each guy. And then you're like, okay, wait, who's talking? And then it's,
oh, wow. Yeah, I can see how that would be hard.
Yeah.
Right.
But a lot goes into that.
Yeah.
Is there a trope that you have not yet written that you would like to?
Yeah, I have not really written a true love triangle yet. I kind of dabbled with it in Aria, but I didn't like go all in. Like I was nervous. It was my first book, so I was really scared of like. Did you read Aria, Tori?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. I didn't really like commit. Like you kind of obviously knew who she was going to go with. But I would really like to write an actual love triangle where you just like Kate Stewart is so brilliant in writing that, like Drive and Heartbreak Warfare. And then I read Jewel E. Ann's book Transcend, and I was like, oh my God, who is she going to be with? Like I love them both. I feel like it's such a challenge, but it would be so brilliant to just like be able to pull that off. So not saying I'm going to be able to do it well and do it justice, but I would love to try. Cause I feel like that is just like a whole other level, like a layer of angst that I haven't written yet. So it might be with my next book too. We'll see how it goes. Gonna have like a million tropes in there.
Yeah, that's so exciting, because love triangles work when you don't know who you want them to be with. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah.
100%. Yep. And it's so hard to pull it off, because I feel like as an author, you probably are picking one, like you're kind of rooting for one, and then it's hard to do the other one justice. So I'm telling myself that I'm going to go into it not knowing who she's going to pick. and, you know, develop each man, you know, as if they are the love interest and see where the story takes me. So we'll see.
You wouldn't even know in the beginning who it is?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to be super biased. Like I have a little idea in my head and I'm like, I'm trying to shoo it away. So we'll see. I hope I can do it though.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Would you ever write anything not contemporary? So like fantasy or paranormal?
That's a good question. It's funny that I don't, because I grew up on Buffy and I was all in the vampire world and stuff like that. So everybody thought I would instantly do vampires and all that. Maybe I had started writing a book that was a little bit paranormal. It kind of had some elements of it, but it wasn't like, I haven't really read the genre, so I don't really know how they're done. So I really have to do a lot of research in that department to do it justice. But that's definitely interesting because I do love that kind of stuff. You know, I love horror movies and all that. So I definitely would say that's more likely than doing like historical or anything. But yeah, we'll see. Like Supernatural, the show Supernatural is one of my favorite shows of all time. So so it'd be really fun to do something like that, but I would have to have the right story.
If I answer this question, are your books as angsty as Still Beating? Everything I've read so far is super angsty. So I think we can expect angst. Do you have any that like aren't angsty?
Oh my gosh. Well, I do want to write a rom-com one day, but we'll see. It probably will end up being angsty too, because I can't help myself. But probably, yeah, all of my books are, I would say, pretty angsty. Funny enough, I'd say the lightest is probably Lotus. I feel like that one has the most like comedy, like some humor and like lightheartedness in it. But I mean, it's still pretty angsty overall. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like light angst. I would say Lotus is light angst, but yeah. I cried in Still Beating. I was trying not to cry in The Wrong Heart because I was working, I had makeup on. And I did cry in June 1st. I was at like the 50% mark and it was like 1 a.m. And my husband was
oh my gosh.
Put your phone down. You have to go to sleep. And I was like, it's so sad. So I will say, if you want a good cry, read any of those.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's I don't know. I have a problem. That's just I love writing that stuff. But yeah, I do have a rom-com planned with my co-writer Shelly St. Clair. We are actually going to write a rom-com about, if you guys read The Wrong Heart, it's West and Leah in that book. So it's Melody's brother and her best friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have a story planned for them. It's just a matter of finding time to squeeze it in, because we each have a standalone we want to get out next. She has one and I want to do my dark one, and then we're gonna commit to that. So I'm hoping maybe by December or early next year we'll have that one out, and then I can finally say I wrote a rom-com if it works out.
I'm excited to see what you do with rom-com.
Thank you. It should be fun. Yeah.
I'll be very impressed.
Right.
Did you plan for June 1st to be as long as it is? Because I feel like your books aren't normally that long.
Yeah, that was
like 500 plus pages.
No, it just kind of like took on a mind of its own and just like kept on going. Yeah, no, I had every intention of every book I write. I'm like, this is going to be my shortest book yet. And they just keep getting longer. Like, I don't know what's wrong. But yeah, June 1st ended up being like 50,000 words more than what I had intended. So yeah, it's a thick one. So
I was surprised when I was reading the ebook. I was like, oh my gosh, this is
so long. I know. I just like, there's so many books that I feel like they kind of rush the ending. Like, you know, you have this big build up and this long build up, and then it's like, all right, they're happily ever after, and that's it. But I really wanted to you know, pay attention to that part and really kind of flesh out, you know, the ending of the story too. So it wasn't just like, you know, oh, everything works out now and yay, happily ever after. So I tried to put a little more love and care into the end of the book too, but it did end up going pretty long.
Did you always, for that book, did you plan to start like when they're super young, or did you have like the middle or the end already like worked out? Anything?
Yeah, I did not. I did not have any intention of doing that. I was originally going to do flashbacks, but as a reader, I don't love reading flashbacks. So it was going to be hard for me to really write those, you know, and have that connection there. But I know also it's different to have, you know, it going linear from childhood to adulthood, because that's not really a standard in romance. You want to see the couple together pretty soon. Yeah. So I knew that was taking a risk, but I really felt like it was going to do their story justice. So yeah, it's definitely not going to be for everybody in that regard. It's a super slow burn. And yeah, a good part of the story is them kind of growing up together. So it's more than a love story, you know, there's family dynamic and all that stuff in there too. But I really felt like I had to do justice. I didn't want to lose the integrity of the story just to kind of, you know, play into, like, to market it, you know, to, you know, an audience. So yeah, so hopefully it worked out. But yeah, I didn't have any intention of doing it that way. It just kind of came to me and I went with it. And yeah, hopefully it worked out.
Yeah, I think Caitlin agrees with me too. Yeah, I would say that, I think I said this in my review when I talked about it, when I, like, if you would have made it any shorter, like started when they're not, like, from childhood, I feel like it would have been such, like, an impactful story, if that makes sense at all.
Thank you. Yeah,
flashbacks have to be done right. I'm one that, I think, Jess, you're like that. We don't like flashbacks in books. It has to, like, be done very, very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely did not want to do a disservice to the characters and their journey. So it is a journey, you know, you really are with them from beginning to, you know, to the end of the book. So yeah, I feel like, and even when I was going back, I was really worried about that first, like, 30-40% of the book, you know, where it takes time to get going, to where they are kind of both adults. But I just didn't know what to take out, because I felt like everything kind of played a part into their, you know, where they end up in the end. So yeah, so it was hard, but I feel like that's the story I wanted to tell, and hopefully it reaches the right readers, and, you know, there's something for everybody.
We did talk a little bit about writing super emotional scenes. Is it emotionally draining? How do you, like, get out of that headspace after being in it for so long writing?
Yeah, it's tough. It's like I thrive writing those. That's where I feel like I really connect with the stories, is when I'm writing those dark and emotional scenes. So I love writing them, but it takes a lot out of me. It's hard. It's hard to balance. Like, I mean, writing sounds so easy to people, but it's hard to balance, like, your family life. Like, because I'm a mom of 3 kids, you know, I'm a wife, have a household, and when I'm writing and when I'm really, really in the zone, when I'm, like, get to that point where it's like the characters kind of take over, it's hard to just separate the worlds, you know. Like I said earlier, it's kind of almost like how I picture method acting is, you really kind of become the characters. And so you need to compartmentalize a little bit, but at the same time, you do need to kind of go all in, because that's when I feel most connected to the characters, is when I feel like the readers feel connected. So even though it is emotionally draining, it's probably, like, the most rewarding thing ever. I absolutely love bringing them to life. So,
and then along with those dark romances, how much is taken from personal experiences versus you just popping in your head and putting on page?
Yeah, a lot of people, one of my main questions is, like, girl, who hurt you? Like, what happened to you? And it's funny because I'm, like, the most boring person in the universe. Like, I don't have any fun stories. Like, all my fun stories are written in books, and they're all fictional. I really haven't had any of my main storylines have happened to me. Not much is personal. I mean, there's little tidbits here and there. Like, I base a lot of Sydney around kind of my personality in Lotus. With, like, being, you know, loving the 90s. And so there's little things here and there. Some characters, like, I take quirks from friends and people in real life that I know. But yeah, I mean, my main plot points and storylines do not come from personal experience. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear that you're not being
right.
Or
exactly.
Does your husband help with anything else writing wise, or just the covers?
No, he is my sounding board. He is so good. He is very different than me when I think. So he is, like, a very analytical person. So he's able to problem solve for me, where I am more just, like, in the emotional angst, character driven area, where he is, like, he will get me out of a situation that I, like, wrote myself into. Like, I always do it. I'm like, how do I get out now? So he is my, like, we brainstorm together all the time. And he actually was the one that came up with the title of Lotus. I thought of the title and I wanted to give it a double meaning somehow, but I didn't know how. So we were bouncing ideas off each other. And yeah, he just came like running upstairs. He's like, I think I got it. And so if you've read it and that's probably like my favorite thing out of all my books that's been done. And that was my husband's idea. So yeah, so he's been super beneficial in helping me, weave storylines together. And so yeah, it's teamwork for sure. I couldn't do it alone.
Does he read your books? Like when you get done with a book, is he like one of your beta readers?
He's really not. Like he read my first couple books because I was just starting and I had nobody else to read them. But he is not a romance reader. He's actually really not a reader at all. He's definitely more like likes watching shows. So it's hard for him to get into it. But occasionally he'll read parts if I need him to help me through a scene. And like I think he's seen enough reviews and hears me like blabbing about stuff enough that he gets the gist of most of them. But yeah, he's not my target audience by any means.
Riley asked a good question about, because I know especially with historicals, whenever I talk to those authors, like deep research. Do you research a lot for your books? And she asked, especially for Still Beating, the way you wrote trauma and PTSD felt so real.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't really do a ton of research for Still Beating, aside from just, watching a lot of crime shows and investigation discovery and stuff and having like minimal knowledge in some of those elements. I really didn't do too much. There are stories that I do have to do some research for. I did a little bit for The Wrong Heart in terms of some of the trauma elements in that one. But I really, for Still Beating, I kind of just like put myself in their shoes and like how I would probably react coming out of a situation like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it resonated well. I was really nervous about not doing some of the mental health, issues justice, but I try to just be authentic about it and, write it carefully, be delicate. So.
Mm-hmm. I just had a question and then it just like left my mind. What was I going to ask? Tori, do you have any questions while I try to figure out?
Yeah. Someone asked a little bit earlier on. Someone asked like, are you a full-time writer now, or like what did you do before, or like do you balance a 9-to-5 job with writing full-time or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I'm a full-time writer now. Thank you all. Like I could not do this. Like I'm so grateful I can do this for a living. It's my dream. But yeah, I actually worked in animal care for 12 or 13 years. 13 actually. Yeah. So I got laid off during COVID, which was in 2020, but I was there. I worked, it was like a vet hospital / boarding facility. So yeah, I worked in the animal care field and absolutely loved it. I'm a huge animal lover. So I try in most of my books to have like an animal present, like a pet. But yeah, I transitioned to writing full time basically when I got laid off, and I made it work. Like I'm like, I don't have an option right now. We have a family. My husband got laid off at the same time. So I just kind of dove right in, and it was a blessing and a curse, but obviously now it's definitely more of a blessing. So it's it's my full-time job, and honestly, it's a dream. Like I absolutely love what I do. I love connecting with readers and sharing my stories and my characters. They're not just living in my head anymore. So it's extremely rewarding.
That's amazing that you get to make it full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is truly.
My question I was going to ask, because you had talked about like Julie Ann, Kate Stewart. Do you have any other authors that you really like reading?
Yeah, Pam Godwin is one of my favorites. I absolutely adore her. I got to meet her and Jewel last month in Iowa, and oh my God, they are complete gems. They're just amazing people. So brilliant storytellers, brilliant humans. And yeah, Kate Stewart is one of my favorites. I adore her. And then another favorite of mine is Pepper Winters. I love her books. I'm actually reading Unseen Messages, I think it's called right now. So she's one of my favorites as well. So they're all top tier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you read while you're writing? Oh, sorry.
I do. Yeah. Yeah, I have to kind of take breaks from writing and then I'll dive into a book, and yeah, it helps. It's like I feel like the best research you can do as a writer, the best like kind of inspiration is reading. It just really kind of triggers that part of your brain, that creative side of your brain that helps you kind of just dive into your story better. So yeah, I have to be reading at like when I'm writing books. So I love it.
I was gonna say, I noticed a pattern of angsty authors that
Yes.
you like to read.
I know. Yeah, and I love Mia Sheridan. She's another one I love. Mariana Zapata. She's a slow burn girl, so I love her. I appreciate her stories. So I have a lot of faves.
We have a question of, would you write a character with a disability if you have not yet?
Absolutely. I do have an idea for one. I just need to have the right story for it. So, and then I have another book that I've written quite a bit to, but I put it on the back burner. But the hero is blind. So I have that story. I almost was going to write that next, and then I got this nugget for the dark romance. So, but that one is definitely one that I plan on writing. So we'll see how that goes.
What made you decide to independently publish your books?
I kind of weighed the pros and cons. I think for me, I'm not super patient, so I get very excited to like share my books right away. And I know with traditional publishing, it can take like years, to get a book out there. So I did try that route. The Thorns Remain was actually called What We Deserve, and I wrote that right before I wrote Still Beating, and I did send it out to to agents and things like that. To try to get traditionally published, and it did get picked up by a publisher, but unfortunately they went under. So they were sitting on it for quite a few months, and then they went under, and I had it back. So that's why it is what it is now. But so I just didn't have like the best experience, and it's very time consuming, especially when this is my full-time income. You definitely need to try to get your books out there sooner, and I just like having the control over the timing. But I wouldn't say no to trying, getting one out there traditionally and seeing, the different avenues and everything. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I like being indie, I don't know. I like it. And I like connecting with readers and other indie authors. It's really been a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard you just have a lot more freedom with what you write, when you write, how you write.
You do, yeah. So I can write like randomly an almost 150,000 word book, and it's fine. It's like with a traditional publisher, they'd be like, all right, you got to take a lot off of that. So
definitely. Do you ever find it hard though? Like you said, you were like 15,000 into a book and put it away. Was that hard to say like, no, I need to stop and just do what my brain is telling me to write?
It is, because I'm definitely one of those people that like when I start something, I want to finish it. But at the same time, like, for example, the book that I put down right before, it was kind of a little bit of a paranormal, right before June 1st. Once I started writing June 1st, like I understood why the other one wasn't working. The flow just wasn't there. I was trying to put these things together that wouldn't fit. And so it was for the best, so I might revisit it again in the future, but it is what it is. I feel like my brain knows when it's right, to put something away if it's not working. And then June 1st happened. So it worked out.
Do you have like a typical day? Like, what does your typical writing day look like? And how long does it take you? Like, I know June 1st was a lot longer than some of your other books, but does it take you like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, like to write a book?
Yeah, I would say my average is 2 months. So almost all my books have been around the 50 to 60 days mark. Still Beating was my shortest time period. I wrote that in just over a month. It was like 32, 33 days I wrote Still Beating. I just was like way like held up in the bedroom. Like 8-hour days I was writing that. And then June 1st was my longest. It took about 3 months for me to finish. And that was more because of it was so much longer. But my schedule is, I've tried to do a routine where it's like a 9 to 5 and I come down for a lunch break to make it feel like, like a job. But for me, it just doesn't really work like that. So kind of my schedule is I have like 2 to 3 months on where I'm just like writing, and then I'll have like 2 months off where I'm not writing. So it's almost kind of like a union job where you have contracts out to, stuff to do for a couple months and then you're off for a couple months. So that's kind of how I treat it. And my muse just strikes at random times. Like I feel like I'm more productive in the morning. So I try to write like right when I have my coffee. I try to write first thing, get a few hours in. But yeah, it's just kind of fickle. It's really hard to put like a strict routine on it.
Do you have to like balance, like, because I know it's hard for authors with social media and doing your own marketing. Do you find that hard to balance writing and all the other like office work you have to do?
It is, yeah. So I finally have a PA, yay! So a personal assistant who helps me, Serena McDonald, and I do have like a little bit of a PR team that I just hired for this recent release because it was getting to be a lot. Because you know, as your social media starts growing, I want to be so one-on-one with like commenting and readers and engagement. That's one of my favorite aspects. So I when I'm writing though, it's so hard to do that. So I definitely tried to like outsource some of the things that I didn't, you know, need to be doing, like, you know, like graphics and, you know, ads and stuff like that. So it's been a lot easier. So, but I do love doing social media. Like I love posts like in my group, my reader group, my Instagram. I love doing that. So I don't want to sacrifice doing that. But yeah, some of the things that I don't love as much is nice to be able to have help with.
It's exciting. You get an assistant now.
Yeah, I know. I'm so happy. I love her. She's great.
I think Monica had also asked this, and she asked about your favorite horror thriller movies, and she asked if you'd seen Wait Until Dark, which is an Audrey Hepburn movie.
No, I have not seen that. Okay. Should I watch it?
Well, it's really good. So she's actually blind, and three men try to like get into her apartment. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I think I will have to read or watch that. That sounds awesome. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. Some of my favorite horror thriller movies. Gosh, I'm not a movie person. I haven't watched movies in so long. I used to. There's a movie I love called Kill List from like maybe like a decade ago. I love the Saw movies. Like I almost was gonna have like Still Beating be kind of like that element, but it was too much. It was too gory, so I didn't. But yeah, I love that movie. I loved what was that movie with like the demon possession? I'm blanking. It was like kind of the home movie vibe where they had like the camera set up and it was like the demon was in the house.
Oh, is that the fifth season? Is that the fifth Sense or something?
No, gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
I don't know. Scary movie, so I have no idea.
I don't either. That's like the one that I know.
I'm totally blanking, but I love like movies that have like kind of that like creepy, like sinister like vibe, like not flat out like horror movies or like gory, but just like that creepy like demon-y ghosts, stuff like that. So yeah, but I don't watch a ton of movies these days. It's very rare. I'll watch series. I just finished Ozark, absolutely loved it. I love In the Dark. But yeah, I don't have a ton of time for shows. Paranormal Activity. Thank you, husband of mine. That's it.
Everybody remember.
Totally blanked. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah, I love that one. Do you use Scrivener or something to help writing?
I do not. No, I just write in Word. So I just open a blank document and just start going to town. That's it. Not exciting.
Ozark.
Loved Ozark. Oh my God. One of my favorite shows ever. It was so good.
Okay. That hour went by like incredibly fast.
Oh my gosh, it did.
Over an hour.
Wow.
To end off, I wanted you to just like give a little synopsis of June 1st. So since that is just came out this week. So people know and they can go get it. Yeah.
So June 1st is a slow burn forbidden romance. So it's a little bit taboo. So definitely, I don't give away exactly what the relationship is in the summary. I'm sure you can find out in reviews, but I like when you can kind of go into books blind a little bit, but just know there is a taboo element. So if anything like that does kind of, freak you out, maybe stay away. But it is a slow burn and it follows the two main characters from childhood to adulthood. So it is told in a linear fashion. There's not really flashbacks. So it is kind of all present day, but it just follows them, through their life. And it's very angsty and it's broken up into 3 parts. The first tragedy, the second tragedy, and the third tragedy. So sounds fun, right? And then, there's a happy ending and, I hope you guys like it. Yay. It was so much fun to write. I absolutely just loved exploring the dynamic between the characters. I love forbidden romance and it's so hard to make them original because there's only so many things you can do that make something forbidden without getting into like cheating and marriage and stuff like that, which I don't generally love. So I try to just kind of do my own little spin on a forbidden relationship and Oh, thank you, Caitlin.
Masterpiece is what she has to say.
Thank you. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. I was definitely took a big part of my heart. So hope you guys you feel the love in it.
I do think you do a really good job of writing very original stories.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody who writes your same plot lines and characters and
thank you so much. Appreciate that. And it's so hard to do because I mean so much has been done. So like everything's been done. So I think it's just a matter of finding what you want to write and then just putting your own personal touch on it and your own spin. So
yes. Yeah. So pick it up if you haven't yet. Pick up my favorite.
Yay!
Reading, and then Wrong Heart while you're at it because these are so good. But nice. Pick up all of her books.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed and liked my books enough to have me on. It's such an honor. So I really appreciate it. This is like the best. I'm living my best life right now. It's just completely incredible to have people that read my books and support my journey and love my characters. It's absolutely surreal. So thank you guys all for contributing to such an awesome life experience right now. So appreciate you
so much. Thank you everybody in the comments for joining. And
thank you all.
We'll see you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks guys. Have a good night.